The exercises that we are going to do today, right now, are so important to sounding natural in American English, and yet they're extremely difficult. So if you're able to keep up with me in the examples I'm about to show you, then that really, in all honesty, is probably going to put you in the top 1 to 2% of people who have learned American English, especially as adults, because this is something that is not happening in your first language, and that is fundamental in order to sound most natural in American English pronunciation. I guarantee it. So let's take a look at how to use pitches in a natural way in American English pronunciation. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show. Wake up, American. We're here Monday through Friday, typically a little later. This last week and this current week are going to be a little trickier, but we are here regardless to make sure that you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of pronunciation speaking practice for the day. To guide you in this journey, there's me. Hello, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That is one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English pronunciation: including placement, pitch, breath, and trying to weaken your consonant sounds and strengthen your vowel sounds. We got people here with me, which is always amazing. We have Noam in here. Milad is here. Levi is here. And Emmanuel is here. Levi asking, how's it going? Asking the important questions today. It's going okay. Hope you guys, my Europe-based people, hope you guys are okay. Having a good afternoon. Had a good morning. All right. So this strategy that we're going to be talking about, maybe it's best to just kind of exemplify it with an example. So take a listen to this and see what you notice.
I went on my first backpacking trip.
Okay, so we have 2 little phrases there. We have I went on my first, and then we have backpacking trip. And I want you to pay attention to what happens pitch-wise.
I went on my first backpacking trip.
Hello, also to Zubeda. Zubeda's checking in too. That's great. So what you're going to notice here is that in American English, the way I often describe it is when we speak sentences in American English, we're not speaking sentences. We're making a building with multiple stories. Each story, each level, that's your thought group. And every time that we change thought groups, we move to a different floor. Sometimes we're going to go higher, sometimes we're going to go lower. It's a lot like moving around in an elevator. Okay. So if we're moving across different floors, then that means we're constantly changing our ceiling, and we're also changing, the floor itself as well, right? We're constantly shifting the box. We're constantly moving that. So if I have one thought group, I'm not just suddenly going like this and there's like in a single thought group. No, I can do it across thought groups slowly, more gradually, but in the same thought group, there's a ceiling to it and there's a floor to it. And if you can remember this concept, it's going to make everything else that we're about to do much easier. Because when I change a thought group, I change my ceiling and I change my floor. So in this original phrase I just showed you, there are 2 thought groups here. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. So in this original recording I showed you, there are 2 thought groups, which means we're going to have 2 separate ceilings and 2 separate floors. See if you
I
can
went on my
identify that.
first backpacking trip.
What you're going to notice is that the second thought group everything went a little higher. The second thought group went a little bit higher. The stress was on backpacking trip. So the first thought group was lower. It's like I went on my first and second thought group backpacking trip. So what we're going to find is that because that second thought group went higher, even though the stress is on backpacking and trip is not stress, so it's going to go lower in pitch, it's still not quite as low as the first thought group. So notice that the word trip is in general higher than all the words in the first.
I went on my first backpacking trip. I went on my first backpacking trip.
And in fact, I want to demonstrate this for you across a couple different thought groups that have, from different examples, that are following the same pattern, where the second thought group is a higher pitch, but the lowest pitch in the second thought group is still higher than things in the first thought group. And I'll visualize this in a moment as well, because that might be a little bit tricky to
in
understand.
polls or just conversations with people often is rooted in polls or just conversations with people often is rooted in
Okay, let's play that again.
in polls or just conversations with people often is rooted in polls or just conversations with people often is rooted in.
And I'm going to play one more example.
Watch from Target that looks expensive. 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 Watch from Target that.
Sorry, press the wrong button. Okay, let's use this last example as our primary model. Okay, and I'm going to need to visualize this a little bit. So give me a moment. Okay, so let's look at this. What's going on visually? Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. So we have two thought groups, right? So we have watch from Target. And then does he say which or that? Let me play that one more time.
Watch from Target that looks expensive. Watch from Target that looks expensive. Watch from Target that looks expensive. Watch from Target that looks expensive.
Okay, so it's that looks expensive. So let's get that down. Watch from Target. That looks expensive. Okay. Two thought groups. Where are the stresses? Let's find our stresses. So our stress is on watch and looks. Those are the two stresses that I'm hearing in these phrases. That means that the pitch and watch is going to go up. It's like watch from Target. So in general, if you like visualizing it as a line, you're basically doing like watch from Target. You're kind of doing that sort of movement. And then we have the phrase that looks expensive. So we're moving down, up, expensive. So our pattern here is more like looks expensive. Okay. So what I want to pay attention to, what I would like you to pay attention to here, is especially, hello also to World Friends is here. Okay. Emmanuel noting that looks expensive. Feel they had the same pitch. They didn't sound the same pitch. Let me play it again because looks sounds higher to me. Let's hear it
Watch
again.
from Target that looks expensive. Watch from Target.
Yeah, looks sounded higher to me personally. You know, just my own judgment. Looks sounded a little bit higher. That looks expensive. Okay, that looks expensive. But the key thing I want you to notice here, we have a whole new ceiling and we have a whole new floor. Let me erase this just to give us more space. Okay, when we change the thought group, we have a new floor and everything. So we have a ceiling, right? Let me get a brush. So we have a whole new ceiling and a whole new floor. And then in our second thought group, we have a whole new ceiling and a whole new floor. Okay. So if anything, the way I probably really should have drawn this is it probably should look something more like this. is we should probably lower it. It's like watch. I have an even better way of thinking about this, I think. So let's do like, if we were just trying to like map the pitches almost, like watch from target. I mean, honestly, it shouldn't even be that. It should be more like it's like watch from target. Do you see how everything's kind of moving down? Watch from target. Kind of doing that sort of movement. And then our later part, the second thought group, watch from target. So we can have, we've made a ceiling, and we have our floor. Okay, watch from target. Okay. Hopefully you're with me a little bit. Okay. So we have our ceiling and our floor. So now we can do is we have our second thought group, right? Which is going to have a whole new movement, right? Watch from target. And over here it might look something more like, so like that looks, oh no, I'm at the edge of my paper. So it's going to do something like this. Expensive. I know I'm cramming everything in there. It's not the prettiest. But this is our pattern, right? So notice that over here we have a new ceiling. We have a floor. And then we have a new ceiling. Okay. Watch from Target. That looks expensive. Watch from Target. That looks expensive. Okay. So notice the pattern here. That looks expensive. And that's our movement. So if you can kind of capture this sort of sense across sentences, we transition from thought group to thought group, that sort of movement, this is going to make your life immensely easier. We're constantly making these little changes, okay, where we're starting off, watch from target. We start with the stress on watch. Then we just dropped. Then we didn't stress that. And then we stressed looks. Then we went higher in pitch, and then we fell. If you can keep this in mind, this sort of movement across thought groups as you say sentences, it's going to make everything sound a lot more natural. We have to move our thought groups. We have to move the pitches that we're using. Let's listen to the example.
Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear those little patterns that we talked about. Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. It looks expensive. And so what we're going to notice one final time, because this is one of the important things, is that because I have a new floor, and this new floor is higher, or maybe even around the same level as the ceiling of the previous thought group. Okay. So expensive. Compare the difference in pitch between target and expensive. Compare the difference in pitch between this get and this sieve. Notice that they are not at the same pitch. This is the last observation we need to make. Notice that get and sieve are not at the same pitch.
Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive. Watch from target. That looks expensive.
Because if those end up having about the same pitch, what's going to happen is your whole sentence is going to sound a little bit flat and robotic. So we have to change our thought group pitch range every time we change our thought group. Okay? This can be a complicated topic. I get it. if you are interested in practicing this, one thing I will say is that we have a pronunciation group on Telegram. I've even written it there because in our pronunciation group on Telegram, what we do is I post some words, phrases, sentences, and our group members can practice saying them and get feedback from me. So if you're trying to see, am I doing this right? Am I handling these movements? Am I going high enough or low enough? Am I going through my ceiling or going through my floor in my thought group and things like that? These are things I can tell you. I can tell you how naturally we're using pitches. Are we using enough range? Where can we make some changes to sound even more natural in American English? If that sounds like something you'd like, you want feedback from me on pitches, placement, breath, everything, every single day of the week, our Telegram group is for you. You can find more information at fluentamerican.com/Telegram. Okay. La Vida Red says your example looks like stairs. Yeah, I mean, you can find, if you guys like follow Rachel's English, or if you looked at like Ann Cook's guides, there is an element of kind of staircase stuff. But I think the important thing is to remember that as we change thought groups, the staircase is changing as well. We're on different flights of steps. Okay. English in general wants to move down unless you get to a stressed word. When you get to a stressed word, you move up, and then everything else wants to move down in general, pitch-wise, until you get to your next thought group, and then everything repeats. All right, but like I said, if you're trying to practice that, our Telegram group is a great place where you can experiment, try new things, and see if you're using this in a way that sounds natural. All right, guys, I do have to head out, but if you have more questions about this, feel free to just leave a note in the comments, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Hope to see you tomorrow on our next episode of Wake Up American. Look, there's not just another, there's millions, literally millions of pronunciation resources out there. So the fact that you turn to us for some guidance is greatly appreciated. Once more, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. It's one of the 4 keys to a natural sounding American English placement, pronunciation, placement, pitch, breath. Trying to weaken your consonant sounds, strengthen your vowel sounds. We will see you all later. Hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and have a good afternoon. Take care.